Hello.
Hi.
Uh, Hello. So I am Ravi Gupta. I am founder and CEO of Elets Technomedia. Just a brief intro about the Elets Technomedia. We are a 17-year-old organization, and we have been bringing out a magazine called E-Governance, eGov magazine, and also a magazine on education, health, and banking. We are doing this webinar today, and we are honored to have with us Ms. Mugdha Sinha, who is the Secretary, Science and Technology, Government of Rajasthan. Welcome, Mugdha ji, on this webinar. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Raviji, and so very contemporary to take up this issue for a webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And what we are going to do is that we are talking about the effects of Corona on the overall Indian ecosystem, and specifically the common man, and specifically the more bottom of the pyramid people. Miss Mugdha Sinha has a illustrious career. She has graduated from LSR, and she has been in this Rajasthan government, and as a part of the IAS, Indian Administrative Service. She has also studied at University of Berkeley and various other leading institutions, and she specializes in the field of public policy, governance, and related issues. So I welcome her, and this webinar is in the context of the article she has written in the eGov magazine, which has been published on our portal right now, and it will be published in our magazine. She's like writing a series of articles for this magazine, and this article is titled "Strangers: The Power of the Common Man." So she has deep interest in the issues of the common man and how do we solve the problems of the common man. And I will request her to give set the context of the article and this webinar first, and then we will start with the question and answer sessions. Madam.
Thank you so much, Raviji, and also to all the attendees. I see about 110 now who have joined us. So thank you very much. I hope this is going to be useful to everyone, including myself, because I'm doing loud thinking to myself as I speak to you. So as Raviji mentioned, I was asked to write the series of articles, which we began yesterday by focusing our attention on strangers, the power of the common man. And why did I do that? Because I, one, am a public servant, and my livelihood is so much dependent on the public. And who is the public made of, if not the common man? So I think that is how this whole idea came about. And because I think there were too many visual imageries and the narrative in the media and the social media, which was throwing this whole thing at us, that I could not resist but not talk about the common man in my first article. And I think COVID 2019, as it is named after the virus, only came to us in March 2020 post-Holi. And we became more serious about it from the time we decided to go in for a lockdown. So I was set wondering, what is it that we failed to anticipate? And that is the reason why we are not wanting to repeat that same mistake and anticipate and prepare, because I'm very optimistic that we are going to get over this. But once we get over this, what is it that we need to look at? Because this is a time of rebuilding post-corona. So that is one. The other thing I would like to also say, two brief things. One is that this was a total random event, which Nicholas Taleb would probably call a black swan. It was uncertain. We were unpredictable in defining how the trajectory will go. But we were pretty much prepared. India, I would say, amongst many other countries, especially China, Italy, Europe, and also US, all the developed countries, we as a country were far more robust and resilient, right? But the point is that we have been able to survive the shock to a large extent. But we need to now upgrade, because we all know of technology versions, no? So we now need to upgrade, especially in terms of a thought process and governance, from just being resilient and robust. Because what does resilient and robust do? As Talib would tell us, and Talib has also come out with a new article today about how we must do zoning and use technology better. We'll talk about that later. But in his book, Anti-Fragile, what he's trying to tell us is that while a random event shocks us and we are able to take the stress which we have taken to a very good and a good level, but what Anti-Fragile does is help us learn from that pain so that we are able to avoid the pain, and that pain has impacted the common man the most. So what is the agenda that we want to set? The agenda we want to set is only one, which is the whole of humanity, because this common man is not just getting impacted, he's also impacting us. Some of us emotionally, some of us psychologically, some of us mentally, some of us are crying thinking of them, some of us are thinking, contemplating and introspection. But this is going to come out on the roads in other forms, in other manifestations. Isliye the focus needs to be on the common man very much. And as I was researching a little bit for the webinar, I found that right 2 days from now is Thomas Hobbes' birth anniversary. And in 1651, he wrote a book called Leviathan, in which he talked of the life of the common man. Imagine 250 years ago, somebody saying the life of a common man will be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And I think Corona is something that has actually, brought that reality from 1651 in 2020 right at our face. So I don't think how we can avoid not talking of common man, because now the governance structures, now the economy, now the social welfare schemes, now the health incentive packages, the life insurance, health insurance packages, mental health issues, security, everything has to be looked from the prism of the common man, where we bring him in the center stage. And also please remember, when we talk of this one mass of humanity, we also have to remember that there's only one earth. So it's earth and this one mass of humanity, which is the common feature, which if it survives, we will survive. I think so that is the reason why I wrote that article.
Great. I think you're mentioning about this whole context of the why this common man is important. I will like to ask you another set of question which is like emerging from here. The issue which is that common man is a part of a larger ecosystem. There is a political ecosystem, there is a social economics, a social ecosystem, there is economic ecosystem, and all ecosystems are being affected by this corona havoc. And the other ecosystems which are at the upper part of the pyramid have a bit more resilience. They have much more support systems around them to handle this shock. The most hurt ecosystem is the lowest rung of the pyramid, which is the common man. So how do we as a society help the common man handle this shock in a better way, and we can help and come together to help that person?
So I think we, as we focus on the common man, we also and common man is not somebody who's a stranger. I'm a common person too, because I'll tell you, I'll give you an example how I become common. Because I'm staying here in Jaipur, and my mother, who's a single lady and is touching 70, has series of ailments, is staying in Mumbai. So while we might be financially well off, but there is a certain amount of security. I mean, she doesn't have a maid right now. So who's going to cook for her? I have examples coming to me seeking help that I am not. I'm a special person. I have certain disability issues, and I am not able to go for my physiotherapy sessions. So it is not just economic. When I'm talking of the common man, my focus is just not on economics. My focus is on everything that the person may not have, and those might vary from different people, right? But yes, the economics counts, because that becomes very, very tangible. So as we talk of the common man, let's also talk of a common thread which unites the common man through the hierarchy, because bhook, as they say, hunger, is something which does not differentiate. So while I would want two rotis for lunch, the common man would also want two rotis for lunch. But how he's able to procure it is what differentiates the two of us. But hunger remains hunger for everybody. So the question of food security, and this is especially important to me because today the government's focus, apart from health and policing, the first, of course, is the doctors and the nurses and the entire support staff. Then, of course, the police, because with welfare, you also need regulation. Then also you have your municipality staff, which is ensuring that we remain clean because hygiene is an issue. But other than that, I think the most important, other than these people who are on the roads today serving people, and also the NGOs and the civil society who's out there serving, are doing it for the food. Right? So food becomes very important also because the time that we are doing this webinar, because I've been food secretary for close to 2 years in government of Rajasthan prior to my current assignment. So this is of very, very much importance to me because this is the harvest time for rabi crops, wheat, mustard, and the farmers, because of this isolation, which is very required, are not able to harvest the wheat. And today, all of you, we all become common people if India is not able to harvest the wheat because we are wheat surplus. Look at Punjab, a neighborhood. We'll not be, if self-sufficiency of food goes down, that will be a problem. So I think the focus needs to be there. And also, can I just read a little paragraph from a book written by Amartya Sen, which is, I can probably also show it. I don't know whether you can see it, but it's called Poverty and Famines. And this book was written in 1981, right? It came out first, the first edition came out in 1981. And I want to read a paragraph in which Amartya Sen is talking of concepts of poverty. And he is referring to a professor, Professor Ryan. And I'll just read, it's a very small 3-line, and that will set the context of why we need to focus on the poor, the common people, and food security. It says, consider the following view of poverty. People must not be allowed to become so poor that they offend or become hurtful to society. Today, those images of the poor people trying to cross the migrant labor, trying to cross the border, people coming out of the houses because they wanted to eat, they had not eaten. It is not so much that the misery and plight of the poor, but the discomfort and cost to community, which is crucial to this view of poverty. We have a problem of poverty to the extent that low income creates problems for those who are not poor. In government policy making and general public perception, what we've always done is when we talk of the poor, we only think of the poor, but we never think of the impact of that person remaining poor. Poverty removal is not charity. It is required for our own good, for the simple reason that if a poor person finds that a rich person has more than it is required from him, then in these post-corona times, we have to be very careful. What will happen is he'll try to redistribute the wealth. And this, mind you, was also the cause of famine, the Bengal famine, which occurred in the early, the 20th century, where we had more than 14% extra production from the last year, but we were not able to distribute that production for the poor people. And that is why there was a problem of poverty amidst plenty. So that might happen today in post-corona times. So since we are talking of anticipating, this is something that I can anticipate, and this is happening even now. And also let us link to food security to other variables, because what is happening today is in these times, while there is only one concern on humanity and one earth, as we globalize and as the virus has globalized and made us more isolated in many ways, we have to look at the quality, not just of policy making, but also the quality of institutions. See, the family life is getting affected today. I'm hearing of cases of newspapers writing about domestic violence in the family. So family of, equality of the institution of the family, that is getting redefined. Society is getting redefined because of a concern and levels of empathy and also depression. So that needs to be balanced, because WHO has already said in its report that by 2030, mental illness will take over diabetes and will take over all other pulmonary issues at the global level and become the third killer. So I think this post-corona might just bring us closer to that. So we might have it before 2030. The other thing is, in the 1970s, there was 1 out of 5 person who was hungry, who went hungry. In 2015, that number came to 1 out of 8, which means the hunger levels went up. And as we touch 250 with about 9 billion population, despite trying to control population, we can only imagine, because as Thomas Malthus said, that population is going to grow by geometric progression and subsistence is only going to increase by arithmetic progression. And we all know that the species of the world will only survive, only those many numbers of species will be able to survive as there is food for them to eat. So I think this whole concept of food security, and I'm just mentioning right now the quantity of the food, I'm not even talking of nutritional security, because today our nutritional security is getting impacted because we can't go out of the house. Fruits are not available, so we are eating packaged food. So my nutritional even I'm not poor, I'm pretty much privileged, and I'm speaking from a position of great responsibility, knowing the privilege. I'm putting this privilege of having an opinion today, because even an opinion today is a privilege, in the service of the people who give me my daily bread and butter. I'm a public servant, and I'm only getting 30% of my salary this year, this month, and I think I truly deserve it. I'm okay with it. The only thing that is worrying me is that we will go a little backward, because now resources, there is a certain Pareto optimality of what is available to us in terms of resources. So we will have to be very, very careful of how we target our resources. And I think poverty removal with outcomes on education and health will need to be extremely useful in times to come. We'll have to loosen up on that part a lot. And see, public perception also, let me tell you, as a government servant, when you are Secretary Finance or Health or Secretary LSG or Urban Development, everybody thinks, wow, you are like, you've got a glamorous position. But I'm telling you, and mind my words, that in times to come, we will have to understand that social welfare schemes will be more important than any of these other important departments, because we will have to keep the people alive. uh, we talk of minimum government and maximum governance, but we talk of the demographic dividend of our population, and we say we have 35% people who are in the 65% who are in the young earning capacity. The quality of your workforce will go down. So you will have to restructure you will have to restructure your jobs. And I'm glad, because of a lot of these online requests, work from home, I was able to upgrade a lot of my own technical skills. We'll talk more of technology, of course. So I think the focus has to be on nutritional food security as much as it is on economy and markets and corporations and everybody else.
So you have touched upon food security, you have touched upon nutritional security, you have touched upon health, mental health. One of the very important aspects of a common man is employment.
Yeah.
Because that ensures food security or nutritional security to large extent.
Yes.
So how do you see this employment scenario changing post corona? How it will evolve and how it will impact the overall common man?
So that, sir, is a very, very important question. And I think this is the most important part of the conversation. But before I do that, let me just give you something what Munshi Premchand has said about ownership of property and goods. Because I think we have moved in 1990s, when I was studying economics as a school student, The primary sector, which is agriculture, contributed 70% to India's GDP. The manufacturing sector contributed 14%, which it still continues to not move beyond 16%. It's between 14 to 16%, pretty much the same. The services sector was the remaining part, which is almost 14 or 16%. Interesting part is that as I have entered my job and with 20 years in the job, I find today that in the last 5 years, the agriculture, which is the primary sector, has been completely overtaken by the services sector in terms of contribution to the GDP. When the classical economy, and today it's 65%. So please also remember that property is now getting converted from tangible to intangible. And also don't forget, when we talk of technology, we people are becoming commodities in itself. And let me also tell you one very positive thing about this virus, and which is not life lessons or metaphorical things which are going around in the social media these days, which of course there is. But an interesting thing about colonization, we all know that Africa was colonized by a lot of European powers. A lot of the countries in Africa were colonized, and it was disease, okay, in certain parts of Africa, which actually prevented Europeans from colonizing those states or countries or regions in Africa at that point in time. So a virus or a disease, I mean, I'm just giving you a very, I know it's a very a different kind of a perspective, but just being the devil's advocate for the virus for a moment. So all is not bad, because I'm by nature a very optimistic person, and I feel that this is going to help us rethink in a very positive and much required manner. So before I talk a lot on the economy, and when I say economy, I'll talk of the macro picture of the economy, and also the quality of institutions, which is the market. And I would also just say that what is important right now is to understand that it is a collective failure of the citizenry, because we are living in a bazaar today where everything is for sale. You know, you have surrogate mothers, you have what you say, you blood is for sale, your insurance policy is for sale, your health is for sale, your education is for sale, you have number of institutions, but there is no quality. So I will talk of both the micro and the also corona. The malls are shut, but your kirana shops are open. You are surviving on your kirana store people today. You are not being able to go to the mall. The delivery boys, the guards, the janitors, these are all the common people whom we forget. Everybody has become a daily wager. Our salaries have been paid based on the number of days of the non-lockout period that we worked. So we are also a daily wager. We are all daily wagers. So this division of labor has to be understood very clearly. But just for a light poetic touch, because literature, I cannot keep myself from literature, and this I read something today itself. So Munshi Premchand ji says, दौलत से जो आदमी को सामान मिलता है, बहुत ही डीप है. दौलत से जो आदमी को सामान मिलता है वो उसका नहीं है, वो दौलत का है. Okay, because these hierarchies are breaking. Today I cannot be Marie Antoinette of the French Revolution and say, if you don't have bread, eat cake. People don't have bread, people don't have roti, people don't have the basic. And if I just give you an example from my food secretary days, I can tell you that out of the population of Rajasthan, which is 6.8 crores as per the 2011 census, we were giving ration at rupees 2 per kg, 22 rupees kg ration at 2 rupees per kg, 5 kg to a family of 5 people, 25, which is 50 rupees ration. How many people out of 6.8 people? 5 crore people. 5 crore people out of 6.8 crore people. Mind you, those are the levels and numbers. So one death is a tragedy, 100 is statistics. We have to remember to be empathic in these conditions, because those 5 crore people are not going to allow me to enjoy whatever little I have. My roti will have to be shared today. That is the fact. So what do we do about markets? So what good thing that has happened is, before I move on to the markets, I will also tell you why it is important, why we have failed as citizens, because we have become consumers, right? uh, we were supposed to become global citizens, and we have become global consumers, and that is where we have failed in our values as a global citizen. This I am saying because I studied under a great guy called an economics professor called Professor Robert Reich in the University of Berkeley, and you can listen to him on the YouTube videos. And he said something very interesting, that with the rise of capitalism for the few and not many, it has enfeebled democracy, because the free market was very much required for free democracy. But what has happened is that capitalism has usurped democracy, the right of the democracy to frame the rules of the market, because it is the rules which level the market and ensure equal opportunities for everybody, just like Corona has leveled all distinctions of the rich and poor today. But that has been usurped by the corporates with their own set agendas and outcomes, and that is something that is going to change today. Also, the way we use technology, because we see now working from home has become easy with all the technology. Of course, I will talk of what Yuval Noah Harari says about the tyranny of technology towards the end of this. So what are the citizen values and consumer values? Because what we have, over the years, we don't see, we don't do any self-introspection as a citizenry. And I count myself in the citizenry. I am also a citizen at several places. When I go to buy Russian, I am a citizen in the market. Okay, it doesn't matter to the Russian wala whether I am a civil servant or not. I have to pay the same amount. I have to suffer the same adulteration like anybody, just that I have a little more advantage, that I am a little more privileged about the rules and regulations, having worked as Secretary Consumer Affairs also. So I know where things can go wrong. But apart from that, what are my citizen values? When I go to the market to shop, I want the best quality product, right? At the my consumer values are, when I go to the market, I want the best quality product at the cheapest price. But when, as a citizen, somebody tells me that this particular brand of chocolate was made by exploitation of labor, or these fuljaris that I'm buying for Diwali comes from exploitation of particular child labor, or this carpet is made by child labor, as a citizen, I want to ban those things. As a citizen, I'm outraged and I say, no, I don't want that. Like right now it's happening with TikTok. Everybody's saying I'm outraged. How can they do it? So, but when it comes to doing Diwali shopping, we will look at a budget and say, okay, yaar, le lete hain China wale patake. Let's take those patakas, because then we can buy something else, which is, we can. So decision making at individual levels and decision making at policy level has this conflict, which is the conflict between our citizen values and the conflict between our consumer values. And I think a renegotiation of these values is very, very essential to understand how the market is going to favor us in times to come. Also, let me tell you that over the years, what has happened is that we have tried in policy making to universalize things. Human efficiency. There has been so much stress of human efficiency that man has actually become a machine. Okay, and the reason is that it's much easier to subordinate machines, and that is how our freedom has been on sale, apart from everything else that is on sale. So we have to shift the focus back, if you want strong institutions, from institutions that commodify individuals, right? So we have to move ourselves, and this the government is not supposed to do, because we, in our normal narrative, have become very used to criticizing the government. And I think we must today see, because only who is sitting at home? Everybody is sitting at home. And who is out there on the streets protecting you? The doctors, the public hospitals, right? They are dying protecting us. The policemen on the street, they also have children. They also have families. They're out there. The janitors, the sweepers. My sweeper comes almost every day. My God, these are the people who are protecting us, and they are all on government payrolls. Stop being critical of things. Stop having value judgments. Stop having discrimination. Look at ourselves as consumers, with our own set of consumer values, and let us shift focus and transform ourselves and become citizens. that this country and this world will need in the post corona times, is what I want to tell you. So what else I would want to tell you? See, capitalism has this very interesting thing of making us more responsive to, to luring us into buying things. So everything comes on sale, which is the very sad part. But markets were very essential to ensure that there was separation of power. This fudging of the boundaries is something that needs to be looked at, because if you see what is happening around the world in terms of the banking systems, so as a very interesting author, and in fact, when I was reading the set of books that I was, and I can also share the biblio if people are interested in reading those books, I saw that most of the intellectuals, the writers and the economists actually started seeing the trend since 2009 when the recession happened. So as one author, Raj Patel, has written in a book, and he has quoted Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I would highly recommend that you go and read that book, and at least if not read the book, see the movie, because he says, today we know the price of everything and the value of nothing. Right? This is so apt for our times, because if the world wars taught us geography, told us who the Allied and the Allies Axis powers were, recession taught us a whole lot about our banking systems. And today, Corona is going to teach us a lot of common sense, which is required. Everything, focus will be on the common man, focus will be on what Thomas Paine said, common sense, and the focus will also be on the common, the mundane, the most ignored, the missed parts of things. So I think that is what my prescription is going to be, to refocus, re-strategize. We have saved ourselves to a very large extent. There has been some collateral damage in terms of huge deaths all over the world. And I think, see, earlier there was, when the recession happened, if you realize, you were talking of the quality of the international financial institutions, the World Bank, the ADB, the IMF. Today, we are even doubting the quality of the reports coming out from institutions which were supposed to lead us into social welfare schemes like WHO, for example. Right? So the quality of information that is coming to us, and the gestational lag that there is in this quality of information, I think that is something that we have to counter, because we've been taught right from day one that data is information, and information is knowledge, and knowledge is power, and we are not using that knowledge and power, because COVID 2019 was around since 2019. There was so much of information lag, and we say that with globalization, the movement of men, material, resources, information is no more opaque, is across borders. And we are not the only ones. It was worldwide phenomena. The only thing that was traveling was Corona, but without anybody's information. So we have to build ourselves to be able to anticipate things in the future, not just as countries, not just as societies and communities, but also as individuals. And how we are going to train ourselves into doing this is something that we have to all seriously work together. And that is why I think we are having this webinar today, because we are pretty much optimistic that we'll be able to do it.
Thanks for highlighting that Corona will make us think about something like common sense. And common sense is most uncommon, I suppose.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
Tell us also about, you mentioned about TikTok, and how do you look at information technology playing a role in combating this crisis, and how do we use it as for our advantage to make the life of a common man better?
Okay. So I will use a few experiences. See, I've also mentioned somewhere in the article, and I would like to begin from that, referencing back to the article for those of you who've joined us today live and who've read the article. I mentioned in the article somewhere that, see, a death is a death. Hana. I cannot see when a person dies or a person gets impacted in any way. I can only look at the tragedy, because dying is the end of life. You became estranged forever. You end up in an obituary. Uh, it doesn't matter to me whether the person who's died is a Chinese, whether the person who's died is a Pakistani, whether the person who's died is an American citizen or is an Indian citizen. Yes, it impacts me if it's somebody I know closely, but every death is a tragedy, because this is what Corona has told us about community health. That today, if I don't help you protect yourself, and that is why we are reminding each other, stay at home, wash your hands, wash off your hands. We could just do it ourselves. Why are we telling the other person? Because community health will help in prevention of certain kind of things in times to come. And because Corona has given us one good life lesson, that I can only exist if you exist, right? And that's very important. So almost like traffic, when I drive on the road, and my this is what my mom used to say, when I would ever drive on the road, she would say, see, you don't have to drive just for yourself. You have to be careful of how you drive, and you have to be also careful of how other people are driving. So you have to not just protect your life, but the other person's life, because in protecting the other person's life, you are ensuring that you don't meet with an accident. So this is Corona. This is exactly the mindset that we need to have in these times today. Technology is going to help. How is it going to help? Because today, if you look at what happened, and what Nicholas Taleb just wrote in an article which I saw in the morning today, he talks about using technology to zone areas, because now we are also, the Honorable Prime Minister spoke today about the fact that we need to look at easing out restrictions, making to need to have a strategic exit policy, because eventually we cannot be locked down forever. We have to have a strategy. So that Nasib Nicholas Taleb's article of how we can do that is a pointer that we must read and understand. So he is talking of using artificial technology. Uh, um, the other important thing is that please let us also remember that we should not create, we should move from, okay, let me give you a simpler example. Today, everybody is online, right? We are using Zoom to do this kind of a thing. But we were not prepared. Neither the schools were prepared, neither the institutions were prepared to suddenly do online. The systems were not there, because coming to office, physical presence in the office was considered to be work. So I think some bit of loosening up will have to happen in this space, that outcomes and productive work should happen. The whole concept of flexi time, working from home, I think will improve the quality of workforce. A lot of self-employment opportunities, because I think who has got impacted the most in terms of your economy also? The people who set up startups, right? The people who set up online platforms, because they had to say that we don't have enough to pay you salaries, so we will let go. So a lot of firing has happened in the newspaper, online media. A lot of people have been let go. So we have to keep all that in mind. Were we prepared in terms of the information technology backend? Because we have so much of data. We have so much of data about people, but could we track people? Yes, we were. In many ways, we did a very good job. I must compliment governments everywhere who were able to do it, beginning from airports, and there was so much. But I think we should look at convergence. While we sit in isolation today and have the privilege of an opinion, we must look at a huge amount of convergence in terms of getting the data together with all privacy issues intact, and how the backend data can be improved. I think that is something that we must use, and we must now move from the MIS system, which is collection of data. And I'll just give you an example of what I did in food, which we used a lot of data analytics. And an app is not governance. App alone is not governance. Let me tell you that. You need to have, see, data analytics is a tool. I'm sure there are other sophisticated tools, because technology is changing in exactly the same manner as Malthus said for population in geometric progression. it is changing, and we have to keep upgrading technology. Like I acquired this new skill of being on Zoom and talking to all of you. So it is very important that we understand uh, that data analytics is a tool which allows you to predict who needs food, who needs where. That is something. Also helplines, we have to involve the civil society and NGOs, because now they'll also need to work on a totally different agenda of how they can do community outreach. What should be their entry point to doing community outreach? That is going to drastically change. We should be prepared to work from home. We should have robust electronic systems that allow us to do work from home, that make it more flexible. These are things that we will have to inbuild. But also, I have to, at this point, in all the optimism that I myself are building for technology, I have to also tell you that we have to be very careful, because we have Cambridge Analytics, which happened. And in fact, I'm reading a book right now by the person who set up Cambridge Analytics and became the whistleblower, because it clearly talks of how people were willingly. See, this is what the market does to you. This is not colonization of territory as it happened in Africa or India. This is colonization of each and every individual. Today, we are willingly offering our data. As we talk on Zoom, a lot of data is getting leaked,
Yes.
right? So we have to be very, very careful of what technology is put used to. So technology, as hamare bade bude have said, no, that technology is a good slave, but it should not be allowed to become a master. Then it will become a Frankenstein monster, right? So we have to be careful of that. And now I will bring in at this point Yuval Noah Harari, who has written these famous books called Homo Sapiens and the Agenda for the 21st Century. But I'm going to refer to an article which he published in the Atlantic somewhere, I think in September or October 2018. And that, just alerted me to what we are doing, because I was working on food, doing a whole lot of data analytics and predicting how to improve the systems in food, delivery systems in food, because service delivery is going to be the thing in times to come. So he says something very interesting. We are still talking of education and literacy, right? For the poor, that poor, when the Sarkar takes out orders, people are not able to read basic, even Hindi, even mother tongue languages in different states. So with technology, what is happening? With technology, even the digitally literate people are going to feel what? They're going to feel that they are illiterate. How? And there will be a certain irrelevance of people which is going to happen, because with so much of data changing by leaps and bounds, we will be required as officers, we will be required as individuals to keep learning new things. Okay, with artificial intelligence, we know that with each repetition, with each iteration, they are able to do several things which will take us many, many years to do, right? So it is going to lead to fatigue and ennui, right? Which even the digitally literate today, there are so many people who know so many things, but we still don't know all the features of a mobile phone itself.
Yes.
So we have to be very, very careful of how much of emphasis we have to give on technology, but the emphasis that we need to give is on research, medical devices, point of sale devices, so that people can have their own kits, which has happened. And I'm so proud of my country that Mylan was able to come out, and the lady, and I'm so happy being a lady, that with what dedication she was able to bring out those kits just a day before her pregnancy, send it for testing. So I think that compassion, that empathy, that thought, that foresight. See, history, what has history taught us? I was been a student of history, and I would like to say that history has taught us one thing, that we become intelligent only by hindsight, right? But in the times that we are faced in, we will have to have foresight, anticipate, and understand how things are going to unfold. And that is something that we can do with a lot of predictive data sciences. And that is where we must restrict the use of technology. And I think a lot of focus needs to go into researching and anticipating and preparing ourselves for responses. We do not want to learn from pain. There is a saying, Pathimatha mathematha, which basically is a Latin term for learning through pain. There is no gain in pain, sir, because there's a huge collateral damage. And of course, mental health issues. Some of the states have come up with helplines to deal with people, because I keep telling my friends, I called when this happened as part of the IS Association. I send out messages to everybody, asking them to be physically fit, looking after their emotional well-being, because this is exactly like the UPSC exam.
Yes.
I think I can afford to be a little light now, in a lighter vein. I say this because what does the UPSC exam, teach you? It teaches you that it's a long process, beginning from the prelims. Those people who've taken it, I have taken it, so I know. Beginning from the prelims, you have to pass that, then you have the mains, you have to pass that, and you have an interview. It takes about a whole year, and if you don't succeed, again you have to get into the same cycle. So what is important, I think, is that Corona is exactly like that process of preparation. Life is very much like this, because you have to have stamina. You will only survive with stamina, because people who have never sat at home, who have venerated work, are today finding it very boring to be at home. So while Corona may not kill them because they're sitting at home and following the protocol, a boredom might, fatigue might, anxiety might, depression might. So, and this will get augmented if you don't have the means to feed your family, if you don't have enough food, if you're not connected to the market, if you are isolated, if you are an 80-year-old senior citizen couple whose children are abroad and your maid is not coming, you can't cook for yourselves. You have money in your bank, but you can't eat your money. I saw videos of people in Italy. I don't know fake news or not, but I saw people throwing their money, because today we know the price of everything. We don't know the value. So I think institutions will change. How we look at families. Also today in India, most of my men friends are cooking for themselves, which is nice. So I think we'll have some, the dynamics inside the family will also change. And we'll also start appreciating the contribution of women, as the Honorable Prime Minister today has said. Let us also, light a diya for all the ladies who are working from home to keep the economy going. And one bit about climate change and the circular nature of economy. In fact, I also wanted to talk about the butterfly effect, but I think I'll do it in my article, because there is a theory of chaos. I'll just mention it briefly and maybe take it up in the. So it says, in fact, because I'm a student of history, I will take you to the French Revolution, where the Austrian Chancellor Metternich once said that when France sneezes, the whole of Europe catches cold, right?
Yes.
This is exactly what is happening. If you see it from the scientific point of view and the theory of chaos, you will realize that today China, the butterfly, the virus flapped its wings in China, and the whole of Europe and US, India, everybody is feeling the effects of that flapping of the wing of the virus. It's basically flapping of the butterfly wings. So there is a cause and effect theory. So we have to be extremely mindful and become responsible citizens of this country, because today we live in a globalized world, and this is the least we can do. And one bit about environment. There is a book called The End of Plenty by Joel Bone. And he says something very interesting, and this is statistical information, so I'm mentioning the author to give it more authenticity. So he says that with every 4-degree rise in temperature, there is a degradation that happens, there is an impact that happens on agriculture. And as we know, in March this year itself, we could see the signs of weather conditions becoming very, very different. We have never had this kind of this unpredictable kind of weather conditions. And I think it's changing globally. There is changes happening in Antarctica. There is a butterfly flapping its wings in Antarctica. There will be trade cycles of the weather. There'll be El Nino changes will be impacting. And that is going to have an effect on subsistence economy. And that is again going to impact through the poor, first the poor and then us. And I think I will like to end what I have to say. And if I've left out anything, I'll see that I can carry it in my series of articles that I have. There's a whole lot of stuff that I have to talk about, which I have in mind. But I think I'll end with Gandhiji, because as a public servant in the 150 years sesquicentennial of Gandhiji, I think what he has said still holds very, very relevant today, because he said to all policymakers that when you are making policy, please look at the last man standing and look at the stomach, the protruding stomach of that last man standing. And today, it is exactly the protruding stomach of the last man standing that has made me write that article, which has made us do this webinar, and which is going to, for our own safety. And please, poverty removal and social welfare is not going to be charity. It is not philanthropy. It is not charity. It is not corporate social responsibility. It is not the agenda of the NGOs. It is from a very selfish point. I can only survive, I can enjoy what I have only and only if the poor also has the means to survive. So it is very much like traffic and corona. My life is today dependent, and these are interdependencies in which we have to learn to connect the dots so we can anticipate and be better prepared for the future. I am leaving you with an optimistic message that we shall overcome this, and please do follow the protocol. The government stands for you, and we are all the face of the government, because we are all helping each other. And as Ram Dass says, we are doing nothing but walking each other home. So let's do it. Anyways, we are ensuring that everybody is home. So let us also walk everybody home, and on a more spiritual and metaphorical tone. I think I would like to end what I had to say with these words. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take any questions that the audience attendees have.
Sure. Thanks for giving a broader context to this crisis. I think you gave the historical context, the economic context, and the global context with the butterfly effect. We all have read about it, but we never actually correlated with this corona crisis. So thanks for pointing the attention to. So, Madam, on your screen, if you can open the chat box and the Q&A box.
Yeah,
I know that.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can.
Too many questions, so I don't know.
So just
okay. Kiran Mahajani says good morning, good afternoon. Sangamitra Anuj says appreciate your effort. Who's highly bound to the salary cost of how the mindset of employees. See, I spoke about the mindset, how we have to move from consumer values to citizen values. I think that is very, very important. How I see the economy grow post-corona, it will grow because we've been sitting home. But also remember that in what direction. So it's not just growth, but the quality of the growth and the direction of the growth and who it's impacting is something that we need to keep a keen eye on, with enablements. And those enablements are legislation, the policy, and that is what. So somebody is also talking of technology in mind, which can provide a solution. Yes, of course, technology. There's so much of technology which has happened in the last few days itself, right from the kits which have come out. But I think technology coming out post something happening is again learning through pain. We should be able to figure out things in advance, and that is where I think investment in futuristic research on things which is, there is something called long term. Okay, investment in the long term and investment in the short term, I think both should go together. So that is for so much for research. How about we pause once every quarter like this, even post corona? I think we must, instead of pause, I think this is Nikasha asking, instead of pause, I think we must just introspect and contemplate every once in a while. Healing window for planet. Yes, it's a healing window to planet, because all the animals, with all the noises and the nice videos, that is actually keeping me alive, cute things that are happening, that is very much required. India has taken a very different step, unlike, yes, see, I must compliment, and we must compliment each other, because governments and people, we have worked together for the first time. And for the first time, you have been appreciative of the role of the bureaucrats, and you have not criticized them. So thank you, my gratitude to the countrymen for doing that. because governments everywhere in every state and at the center are working to ensure that all of us are safe today. They've already thinking about our concerns as human beings, I think, which is the very first step. So this is beautiful. You are a student of history, so what makes you think it will not be business as usual? See, it is up to us to not let it be business as usual, because if we don't learn from history, the lessons of history, we are bound to repeat it. We've done it in the World War I and World War II. We didn't learn it. And this, some people are saying, is World War III, because it's actually impacting the humanity as a race, as a whole. So I think, and please don't, I think I just want to say one thing. Let us stop doing this us and them. There is no us and there is no other. We are all together in this. So don't ask, don't even ask yourselves these questions that what are they supposed to do? I think what John F. Kennedy said in the context of US is high time we start thinking of what we can do as citizens. See, today this thing has happened. Everybody is going back and sewing masks at home, doing a lot of household work, right? Can we just not do it? Can we not make strangers? And who are these strangers? These strangers are the ones who are keeping our economy going. Can we not think about them? How is it that all our intelligentsia, emotional and everything is coming out only now? Can we not keep it alive in normal circumstances also? And I say this to all of you, as I say this to myself, that we have to stop speaking from our positions of power, positions of money. And please remind yourselves of Munshi Premchand, जो सामान दौलत से कमाया है वो दौलत को belong करता है, वो आपको belong नहीं करता है. The next time you eat a roti or chawal, as some women are telling me, roti banana is very difficult. So when you are doing that, please think that roti doesn't belong to you. That roti belongs to, there's a whole chain. And also one bit about the circular economy. Today, less is more, right? We are doing with less. Anna, some of us, I didn't hoard because I didn't know. I'm so optimistic that I thought that after 1 week, things will be over. But I'm not worried. Okay, if I eat a little less, it's okay. I mean, I'll be healthier. I have a more radiant skin, maybe, and maybe I'll feel better. I'm anyway staying at home. So I think we can do with less is more. I'm trying to also generate little less waste, because I am telling my sweeper, the gentleman who comes to clean the building, to please don't come on a daily basis. I said, you don't come. You come once a week. You don't want to come. You don't come, because I'm not generating much waste. And this is what I wrote also several places, that please do not generate waste. Try and reuse the things. And people are doing it. All the DIY that you are doing today, do it yourself at home, because you have all the time, is basically recycling. So please recycle, reboot, as a lot of people are saying, so we can rebuild afresh, anew. That is where a lot of the good things of the future are going to come. So I'm pretty optimistic, and I'm actually grateful for this little virus, because small things come, great things come in small packages. They've hit us, this almost like the Deviat and the Goliath thing. So we have to think differently now, do things differently, think out of the box, and also just do a Marie Kondo on things that are not required. And we have to be a little drastic about doing these things. Just chuck away with what we think is not required. And I'm also talking of legislation and policies, and start reviewing, because if we have to be anti-fragile at the end of the day, then I think we have to learn from the shock and the stress, so we can be better prepared for these kind of disasters and crises. And I think we should learn to avert and not just manage. We have dealt with this very fantastically. My compliments to governments, to officers, to doctors, to subordinate staff, to support staff, to the scaffolds which are keeping the society alive, to everybody. I'm so grateful. Also a little bit of grateful to the virus, because it is kind of come at a point where we needed it to do the rethink and the reboot and go back. And I'm so grateful and thankful to everybody who has joined us. And these are my own personal views, and I take what resonates with you, take what you think makes sense to you. But let us stop value judging people. Let us stop discriminating people. Let us look only at what we can do. Every bit is going to count. If you have idea, see, there are factors of production: land, labor, capital, enterprise. That was the classical 4 factors of production. Today you have ideation and technology and innovation. And innovation, as you know, necessity is the mother of innovation. So I think with this virus impacting our lives, the necessity will become the mother of innovation, and we are going to have a lot more innovation, a lot more stress on research and technology in a good way, uh, putting science, technology, governance, economy to the service of the common man. I think that is how I would like to look at things, to become responsible citizens from aspirational consumers. I think that is in one line is how I would like to see the policy architecture, and to see things in the future evolve in that direction.
Great. There are some question and answers, like there is a Q&A button on your screen, if you can open it.
Okay.
So if you can pick a few of them, like if you want to address any.
Okay, so the first one is Manoj Thakkar. He says that a lot of students still have doubts about the internships. Should we expect the government have any plans? Of course, I'm making a note. So all interns who are working in my department need not worry. You will get your certificates. So that takes care of that. Yes, you're talking of the common man. This is so weak. Do you think that this present unprecedented crisis has opened up the vulnerability of common citizens more than ever, and this can actually help the government? Yes, this is exactly, sir, what I have been talking about, the vulnerability of the common citizen, and the fact I want the common man now to become a common citizen, actually, and not a consumer. How do we solve the problem of harvesting? Yes, exactly. And if you heard the Honorable Prime Minister in the morning, and state governments are working towards an exit strategy, because he first addressed all the Honorable Chief Ministers of the various states and the Chief Secretaries, and then he made this public announcement today that we will be looking at an exit strategy. So I think there will be something that is going to come out of it, and we will all be able to see. Then Rashmi is saying one of the sectors which has been deeply impacted due to the current scenario is the small and the medium business sector impacts employability. Yes, absolutely, you are right. We have to relook, and I think a lot of incentivization is going to happen. But I think more than incentivization, because also that is what something makes things for sale, I think we have to look at what we need to focus. And I think education and what you say, how do I put it? Self-employment, startups in the service sector, I think we will have to focus a little bit on those. And also the quality of wage labor, daily wage labor. I think we'll have to, since we've already got them into the formal sector with demonetization, I think we need to now start looking at various small segments. It's very nuanced. Because daily wages are also not generic. A daily wager in a textile industry will be very different from a daily wager in another industry, for example. So I think we'll have to do a lot of policy making from that point of view. Galaxy J2 Pro says, how and to what extent the state mechanism in India is prepared to deal with the situation? We just spoke about it in great detail. I don't think I like to repeat. We were far more prepared than many of the other countries, I would say, and we can see the results. See, it's not just governments and state mechanism. Can I just give you a puzzle to all the next questions that I see? So there is a puzzle which I also put on my Facebook, which is also coming from a book which I read, which I thought very relevant for interactions between the government and the citizenry. So what is it? So in a village, there are 2 railway tracks, track A and track B. Track A is the regular track on which the train runs. Track B is a track on which trains run only during emergency. If there is an emergency, and there are children who play in the village on those 2 tracks. So the government makes a policy, goes out to the village, does an outreach, and tells the children and their parents and everybody that the children are allowed to play on track B. So there are 10 children in that village, and this announcement is made known to everybody. Now what happens is that one child heeds this information and he goes and starts playing on track B, which is the lesser of the used track. And 9 children continue to play on track B. Now there is a train which is coming on track A. What should the train driver do? Because should he kill 9 children on track A because they have not been obedient to the rule which was made, which they were supposed to adhere to? Or should he shift on track B and kill that child who actually has been obedient of the rule and playing on a dysfunctional track? Tell me, as citizens, when you criticize the government, when you say this is not what we have done, what are you doing? Which child are you? The 9 playing on track A or the 1 playing on track B? Please think about it, because these are very, very relevant questions. Okay, then there is an anonymous attendee who says, question on agriculture. We spoke at length about the farming sector is going to be very, very important for all of us, for subsistence alone, for the ecosystem too, and the diversity that we have to remain, for human beings and the flora and fauna as a biodiversity whole to remain. Arpit Gupta is asking, elaborate on the preparedness strategy of the Rajasthan government to handle post-corona. It is evolving because this is something that was new, and I'm sure we are prepared. You must have read the Honorable Chief Secretary Sir's very detailed interview in the media. I think you should take a cue from there. And good evening. Do you think post-corona employers will use an option laying off manpower? See, if you lay off manpower, I think somewhere there's a domino effect which happens in the economy. We have to encourage both saving and investment, because our savings have got impacted and are likely to get impacted in the future because of what's happening in the banks, because of what Corona has done to us, because of what governments will now need to do to step up and pump more money into the health sector and social welfare schemes. So we will have to look at a lot of things very, very holistically. Nirmal says education era after Corona. So education is in a way not just linked to Corona, except for the fact that technology will become very ubiquitous and omnipresent in education. But please recall that even before Corona came, the government of India issued a notification which says that no more engineering colleges to come up for the next 2 years, because we were proliferating in terms of numbers, and the quality was getting impacted. And I deal with a lot of universities, and they have been telling me that they are finding it very difficult, even with subsidies, for students to come to engineering colleges, because there have been so many engineering colleges which have come up. So I think, and then in a situation like today, when Corona attacks, and we realize that there is a shortage of doctors while we have so many universities and medical colleges. So I think there has to be a lot of balancing that will need to happen in all fields. There is a branch manager salaries. Yes, there will be an impact on how we spend. So I think salaries and everything is, please look at it from the consumer value point of view. Dr. Parikshit Sirohi has a question. Please type your question. I'll be happy to see it. Subhash Sharma, what is the significance of this pandemic? I think to put common sense into our brains to reboot for the future. Bhupesh Gupta ji says, dependent on basic civic sense. Absolutely right. Technology, but please use it with discretion, because discretion is always better part of valor. What is your take on a smooth normal life? It all depends not just on my hands but also on your hands. R&D, Dr. Kothari says yes. Where Rashmi says, where can I find your article? I think it's on the Elets website. Ravi ji can say a little more about that towards the end, I think. Indrajit Bose is saying, mass exodus we have witnessed. Yes, this is the saddest part actually, because when I saw those pictures of people, I was taken back to my own childhood days when I used to see tamas of Om Puri. And those very, very vivid memories came back as I saw the newspaper. And that is what just made me write that article. So it is very, very sad that we have not been able to take care of those people. But now I think we will do. Sometimes adversity, as Rumi says, the light enters through the crack. I think from this crack that it has opened in everybody's heart. I've also written in my article that the callouses on their feet have opened cracks in our own hearts. And I think from this will emerge a new architecture of governance and a new thought process in both the government and the civil society. Replace traditional one, or obviously grow e-learning. Yes, e-learning is going to become a very important part, and it should, because technology is going to level this space and for good. But we have to have certain provisos in terms of leakage of data. Cyber crimes is something that the government needs to focus, because with so much of usage of technology, um, this is something which is going to happen. It's already happening in the banking sector. But apart from that, can you explain the butterfly effect? How long will it take the economy? Sir, I'm not an expert on economy. I am just a normal person who loves economics and thinks that it makes sense. So maybe the experts will be able to do a bigger job, but it's going to take some time. In my own understanding, I think 2 years. Can you explain the butterfly effect? See, the butterfly effect basically talks of cause and theory in a very, very chaotic manner, because while we are isolated, we are also working in silos. We have become so interdependent and developed so many codependencies in this global world that we are not able to connect the dots. And we require a very strategized drone kind of a visual picture to be able to connect all the dots, which is not going to happen. So I think we have to be aware of this aspects, that we have to converge a lot. We have to simplify. Complex is not great. Simple is sophisticated, is something that we have to come back to. And we are actually doing less is more, small is beautiful. All that is going to come back. It's retro, reboot. Anuj Sharma says there is a news that Indian economy will not suffer. See, our Indian economy's best part is that our fundamentals have been very, very strong. We did not suffer much in the recession. We did not suffer much when Latin America had problem, when the South Asian economies underwent a whole lot of churning. But the point is, we have to be prepared. I told you, we don't have to be resilient and robust. We have to learn from this crisis, this black swan event, put our skin in the game. And I'm a great fan of Taleb, because he says, if you can do stock market predictions, why can't you predict other things? Why can't you predict what is going to happen to humanity? Why is the stock market modeling systems? And I think research in science, please, mathematicians, physicists, where are you? Please develop these modeling mechanisms, so we can at least start predicting certain things. Prathna Datta, hello, it's very great listening to you, gain a lot of knowledge, blessed. I want to know the book. Yuval Noah Harari, just type, and he's written 3 books, and no, he's written more than 3 books, and he's writing some brilliant articles these days. Please Google, please subscribe free to Atlantic. You will read a lot of his stuff. Nandini Garg has a very huge, big question. Health initiatives, yes, focus is going to be on health, and from viaticals, which basically mean that you make the old and the sick people pay, so that when they die, you get their death benefits. That is going to shift to focus on health insurance for the healthy. Geriatric care. Today we are facing a problem of old people being alone with no support staff. I think service sector, people who are working in the service sector, especially in the startups, should look at geriatric care. And as a government servant, geriatric care, because I want to be prepared for my own future. As an old woman, I want to ensure that there are policies in place that keep me empowered as I grow old, and not maybe remain so physically fit. So I think we need to all invest in education education and health in a big way. Civil servant, what's your opinion if wages have been deducted? How will common man will survive? Even our wages have been deducted. We have to make the sacrifice. We have to make the sacrifice for the greater good. I think I seem to have answered whatever I could. My Q&A chat says, Rashmi, thank you. And I think Karthik has also, as we were answering questions, has also uploaded the article, part 1 of the series. We plan to do 4 more, which I'll be writing. If you have any suggestions for what you would like the focus to be on, I will try and incorporate it to the extent that I can in the next series of articles that we plan to do. And please also look after your mental health, emotional health, spiritual well-being, because this is something that is going to last us in good stead. Invest in your health. uh, uh, I think we are done. Are we not?
Yes, almost there. So I hope you have answered like almost all of them. I'm like surprised what you have covered each and every of aspect of all the questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi, for giving me this opportunity and to your platform. I mean, I do a lot of things for my own satisfaction, but this is something that is, I think, very cathartic for me. And also, as we are in solidarity with everybody, this is my own small gesture of, as I work from home, my own small gesture of saying that I am with everybody that is undergoing any kind of anxiety at this point in time. Please have faith, we will overcome this, and thank you so much for being here. I think a lot of people have made an exit. We now have 126 from the 170 that we had earlier.
Yes,
I think
yes.
time to close the session and maybe
Yeah, so
have a good
let me
cup of chai,
just
which we have to make on your own.
yes, yes, yes.
I
So
have to make my tea on my own because I like the taste of the tea that
great,
I
great,
make.
great.
So, okay.
Fantastic. Let me just thank you, Mugdha Sinha ji, Secretary of Science and Technology, Government of Rajasthan, for taking her time for this session. And this is from the article which she has written on for the eGov magazine. The link of this article has been put on the chat, and we will also mail you the link of the article separately to all the people who actually joined the chat here. You can comment about this article, or if you have any feedback on the website also. So on the link which Karthik has already sent on the chat, and hope fully we will have another session with Mugdha ji on the next series of the article or the yeah. So if you
Yeah, yeah.
agree,
I'm happy to also talk about safety issues, both domestic and also external, as we walk. Once we are free and we begin to walk from outside the homes, because the future of policing, those will also be issues which will face us because of a whole lot of things that is happening around us. Mental issues, of course. Mental issues are again like the common man, invisible, lesser talked about, and also come with a little bit of stigma, which is wrong. So I think those are issues that I'll be happy to talk more about, because I also believe in them very much.
okay. And just to share with all the attendees that this video is also is already available on the Facebook page of the eGov magazine. So if you go on the Facebook and write eGov magazine, you can actually listen to this video already, and you can also comment and share and like it. So with this, I thank you again on behalf of Elets Technomedia, Mugdha ji, and we thank all the attendees for your active participation. I have always really happy to see so much interaction, which I actually had not expected. So much interaction.
I hope it was useful to the participants as much as it was to me. So I thank everybody. I thank Ravi ji and your entire team, which is working from home to make this possible. And thank you for upgrading my technical skills. I can do more of Zoom sessions now. And also to everybody who made time, took time out to hear us today and have offered their valuable comments. I'm extremely grateful to you. I'm honored, in fact, to have your presence on this platform. Thank you very much.
And before we end, a special thanks to Karthik for arranging this, the Karthik from eGov magazine.
Yes.
Thank you, Karthik, for doing this. So, thank you so much.